Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to be with you here today and to share with you a friend and a resource that I think you're going to find so valuable if you are a small business owner, an entrepreneur. Maybe you're just starting, maybe you're kind of in the weeds a little bit. I think what you're going to hear today is going to be just amazing. We know that entrepreneurs often start off as a one person show. We have to wear every single hat, we have to do every single job. And we know that there comes a time when we realize that struggle has just maybe gotten out of hand and we need to do something. We kind of lose our edge. We lose what really the fun part of being an entrepreneur. And so we know that we need to do something. So I think that is where we're at today. I'm going to offer you a chance to get to meet Jen Hickle. And I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. I didn't even ask that. Oh, good.
You are, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Jen is has been a friend of mine on Facebook, and she lives in a whole nother state. I'm in California. Where are you located, Jen?
I'm in the very, very cold Minnesota.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. Well, although California's not having really California weather lately, we've been doing some Midwest stuff. Although I thought I was in Antarctica a couple of days, but I think we're probably a little bit warmer than you. But I am so excited to have you here. Jen is the owner of Never Alone Coaching and the VA Academy. And so it's the VA Academy and all that she's got to share with us today that really is kind of driving today's interview. And I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it. So, welcome, Jen. I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this, to actually get to talk face to face. So, give us a little bit of background and what you do and how you got your business started.
For sure. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. I've been looking forward to it too. There's nothing more than I love than helping small business owners. And the VA Academy came about actually because I saw such a need for it. So I've been coaching small business owners since about 2015, 16, somewhere in there. Before that, I owned my own business. It's a local music school. We grew that from my living room to 500 students, full-time desk staff, 20 teachers, everything. And as I started coaching business owners, and I tend to coach a lot of creatives. So a lot of people who maybe they're musicians or artists or writers or coaches themselves. And, that's a specific skill set that is wonderful and needed, but the deficits were handled and solved by a VA. So over and over in my coaching practice, I kept recommending, you need a VA, you need a VA. And at some point in 2019, I said, hold on, I'll be right back. And I was like, I have got to train VAs so that I can match them up together. So that's what I did. The VA Academy was born, and right away I got tons of interest. I knew that I was hitting on something because it really is such a great business. You can do it from home, you can set your own hours, you can decide the services that you offer, you can build your business on your strengths, which is what I really, really believe that everyone should really stay in their God-given strengths. Whatever you are so good at, keep doing more of that. And then the things that weigh you down, drive you crazy, make you want to pull your hair out, hire that out. Right. And so the VAs are very different, especially from creative entrepreneurs, right? They have a different skill set. So I've been growing the VA Academy since 2019. We have just a wonderful group of women, primarily, who are just passionate about spreadsheets and details and bookkeeping and emails. And I'm like, you are needed. They think,
Yes.
oh, this is nothing. I'm like, no, it's everything when you support a business owner. So I still coach privately as well, but my primary focus right now is the VA Academy and helping match those VAs to the business owners who need them.
Well, you touched on something I think that is, I find in my coaching practice as well, is entrepreneurs often don't like that side of the business. They don't like the back
Exactly.
office stuff. They don't like the financials. They don't
That's
like keeping
right.
track of stuff. And many people will start a business. They know how to cut hair, but they don't know how to run a business. They
Yes,
know how to make tacos, but they don't know how to run a business. And
exactly.
so it makes perfect sense. And you said something, and I use this phrase all the time: you find your lane and you stay there.
That's
You know,
right.
you find, again, lining up with whatever your God-given skills and talents and abilities are, and you'll find you love your work. You'll
Yes.
never work a day in your life when you are in that sweet spot.
That's right.
So
That's
before I
right.
get totally off on a whole nother
Right?
tangent, I feel like I'm on a soapbox there. So tell us exactly, what does a VA do? But even more importantly, how can they help a small business owner?
Absolutely. Well, essentially, to boil it down, a VA assists a busy business owner. They come alongside you. One good illustration that I like to use is it's almost like a babysitter for your business. Okay.
Ah,
Because your business is your baby, right? You love that thing. You birthed that thing. It's important to you, and you don't want just anybody taking care of your business. So a VA should be extremely reliable. They should be trustworthy. And we're going to talk about this more as we go on, but you should hire them and onboard them slowly, right? Start with small tasks, just like a babysitter. I know when my kids were small, I've got 4 kids. Sometimes I would have a babysitter come while I was still home, right?
mhm,
And just let her play with the kids, gave me some time to work, but I could kind of overhear what was going on, make sure the
mhm,
kids were happy, right? And then you let out that line little by little. So then maybe I would leave for a few hours during the day. Make sure the babysitter did a good job. Did they clean up? Did the kids have fun? Right? Then you might do evening. And then little by little, I would actually train in my babysitters and I would say, I will pay you if you will please do my dishes. Will
mhm,
you please clean up my kitchen? Will you
mhm,
please put away the toys? Right. And so I start delegating more and more. And then those babysitter relationships lasted years and years. And I'm still friends with them now and they have their own babies. Right. So a VA is very similar. They're going to come alongside you and you're going to little by little give them some of those tasks that drain you, that you hate, or you just don't have time for. So what am I talking about? Sometimes it's getting a new email address for yourself and your VA takes over your email.
mhm,
Nobody knows how to get a hold of you now, but the VA is just simply like scanning them for you. They're just reading them, they're forwarding the ones that you need to see, and then dealing with the ones that you don't need to be the one to do it, right? They can handle that. They can be calendar management, helping to look, what's coming up. What do you need to block your calendar off? Any of those details that maybe, again, you don't have time for, or they just drive you nuts. A VA can also help with social media, can help with marketing, can help with your blog, maybe sending out emails. Maybe you like to compose them, but actually going in and formatting them and picking the right audience, it's just like, just feels really heavy. A VA is great at that. So a VA skills can start from admin, move into marketing, and then ultimately they can almost be like a business partner where you're even brainstorming with them, you're asking their opinion. So the higher you go, of course, the more you're going to pay. Right. So if you've got a VA with a ton of experience and more strategy, that's going to be more expensive. But if you
right,
have a more just administrative VA, that's going to be more affordable. Also, I do want to differentiate. Many of you may have heard of a VA and you think overseas.
mhm,
Yes, that is an option, right? And that you can do really cheap, like $5 an
mhm,
hour. Here's the problem. You've got a language barrier. You've got a time zone difference. Even if they're trying their hardest to work in your time zone, it still is an element that you have to consider.
right,
Also, they are usually very, very good at you saying, please do this. And they
mhm,
do it. But if it's more complex, you need a sounding board, you need some strategy, it's going to be more advantageous to have somebody here stateside who is close to your time zone that you're not going to have to really, really explain yourself. Okay. So just think of it as next level. There's a time and a place for using overseas VAs. We use them as well in my husband's marketing company. But when you're talking about really elevating your business to the next level, and if they're client facing, that's
mhm.
when I recommend getting one that's more expensive than $5 an hour and is, in your similar region.
So that kind of leads me to the next question, and this one has, different ways we could go on that. As I mentioned in the opening, entrepreneurs often start off as a one-person show. Sometimes that's just because it seems like the easiest way to do it. Sometimes it's the most affordable way to do it.
Mhm.
And we know roughly 80% of entrepreneurs start off by bootstrapping their business. There's not a lot of funding out there for startups, and which is a whole nother
Yeah.
thing we could talk about.
Yeah.
But so going back to this, there's a point when you're going, okay, maybe it's going to be hard to afford this, but
Mhm.
I have to know, when is that point where you kind of you wait too long, I guess, for lack of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does a small business owner know
Right.
when it's the right time to reach out and at least explore the
Right.
option of getting
Right.
into VA?
Yeah. Lots of good, like nuanced questions in there. So I would say that most business owners do wait, quote unquote, too long. It's just human nature. Maybe things will slow down. Maybe I can handle this. I'll just keep going. I don't want to part with that money. We all have those voices. That's very, very normal. And I would say that entrepreneurs who are bootstrapping and doing whatever it takes, that's coming from a great place, right? That's our hard work ethic. Like
Yeah.
you do all the things, not just because you can't afford to help, but like you're just probably more of a go-getter, right? Like you just got to make it happen. And I know for me, like I don't want to be slowed down. So
Mm.
delegating means you got to slow down a little bit, right? When you're not doing it yourself, you have to explain it and you have to train them in and you have to document it and blah, blah. So sometimes that feels heavy, right? But when is the right time? I would say the wrong time is when you're still developing your product. Like if you
Mm.
don't know what you sell and you don't have customers yet, uh, probably don't sink money into a VA. Okay. But if you are attracting the right people, you know the track you're on, you're busy with work doing the thing of your business, whether you're an electrician, a plumber, even a coach, if you're a chiropractor, if you are anybody honestly in the service industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they serve somebody else and they make money by doing the thing, well,
Mm-hmm.
then if you are splitting your time and you're doing your admin and your marketing and you're, answering texts and responding to clients and invoicing and bookkeeping, and over here, the thing that you sell makes money, well, then it's going to make sense if you can do more of the thing that makes money if you hand off some of this admin stuff. So a VA honestly should pay for themselves because it's freeing up hours for you to actually make more money. Okay. Now, that's sometimes hard to see, and maybe it's not immediate, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say that is a good judge of like, if you had 5, 10 hours more a week, could you then go make more money? Then it's time for a VA. Okay.
And I think you have to have that discipline then to use those hours efficiently and
Sure.
not just lounge around and eat bonbons or something. I don't,
Right. Of
you want to
course.
make sure that you're trading out that time to someone, and then you're going to take advantage of that time to do what you do best.
Right. Or we had a client who he was using our marketing agency, and my husband recommended get a VA. And he came back to me and said, Jen, I just want you to know you saved my marriage
Hmm.
because he was working nights and weekends. And his wife was like, I can't handle this anymore. We
Ah,
have young kids. Something has to change. So by getting a VA, he got his nights and weekends back.
very,
So that's another spin on use your time wisely, right? Because that might be your family, right? So if your
yeah.
family's constantly complaining, like you are working all the time, maybe it's time to delegate. Also, the VA can do it all faster than you can. Okay. So something that takes you 5 hours, they could be done in 20 minutes. And you're going to go, what on earth? But that's their skill set.
Yeah.
So you're not going to pay for 5 hours. So don't assume I can't afford it. Look into it when you're kind of wondering, when you're thinking, I don't know if I can afford this. Let's make some connections, right?
Yeah.
Because even if you can make some connections and know, okay, I got it, I've got the info, I'm going to go get some more clients to pay for that VA, right? Then it's ready to go versus, oh, shoot, now I'm so busy, I can't think straight. Well, now how are you going to find a VA? Right. So you gotta hit that sweet spot. And sometimes you do have to put a pause on what you're
Yeah.
doing, take a little detour, right? Pull off to the side of the road,
Mhm.
onboard that VA, and then vroom, you're gonna be back and rolling even faster once you have somebody assisting you.
So you touched on a few things that are great for VAs to do, that they're easier to hand over to them. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of times entrepreneurs struggle with control.
Hmm.
uh,
Yep.
and delegating. Uh,
Mhm.
but and so you talked about good ones that are the ones that we don't really like to do anyway.
Right.
But what are some tasks that a business owner probably shouldn't delegate to a VA?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, the things you shouldn't give away are the things you love the most. If they really energize you, so there's this weird phenomenon, but it happens all the time. A lot of times business owners think, okay, here's the pile of things I hate to do, but I'm the business owner, so I've got to do it. And they think they're being good, they're being well-intentioned,
Mhm.
honestly. But what I like to challenge them on is, okay, is it the thing that it's like, well, I'm a business owner, I have to do it, or is it something you don't like that actually somebody else would enjoy? Right?
Mm,
So don't hold on to things that you don't enjoy just because you think, well, I'm the business owner. This is what business owners do. You have to
mhm.
do the thing that nobody else wants to do. Don't assume,
Okay.
because there are tasks that these other people that are wired differently, they love to do. And they're almost, honestly, they're kind of embarrassed about it. Okay. So the VAs in my academy are like, I just really love spreadsheets and, formatting and organizing all the addresses so they all laid out right. And they're like embarrassed to tell me. I'm like, girl, good. Okay. Because these
Yay.
entrepreneurs hate it. All right. And they need you, but they do it really fast. Right. So don't delegate things that you enjoy. Keep those things for yourself. If they bring you joy, if they bring you energy. And then you never want to fully delegate all your bank account and
Mhm.
paying bills, right? You have to have, I'm sure that you teach this, you have to have a pulse on your numbers, right?
Yeah.
You've got to see your dashboard. You
Mhm.
have to know, where's the money coming in, where's it going out. Um, that is something you never want to like blindly,
Right.
cut yourself off from that information. Otherwise, I think most tasks, there's other ways to have transparency so that you're delegating with full knowledge. All right.
Okay.
You should always inspect what you expect. So if
Ooh,
they're
that's a
doing
good
a
one.
task for you, yeah, it just, again, like a babysitter, you're not
Mhm.
adopting your kids out. They're just babysitting, right?
Mhm.
Still your kids. It's still your business. So, what are they doing for you, and how much communication and transparency is there? So, for instance, my VA that does my social media, she sends me posts and images on Slack, and I approve them. And I go, yep, thumbs up, they're good. I don't want to see that post for the first time when it's posted on Facebook, right?
Mhm.
Because what if it's not aligned with me? What if, it hits my audience wrong? And maybe my VA doesn't even know that, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to pre-approve that. Even some emails that my other VA will send out, she will say, I'm sending this for your approval, so that I fully know what they're doing, what's being sent out on my behalf. And and it's fast, right? It's super fast for me to go, yep, yep, check, check. But there's that transparency there. So never, yeah, I think just making sure, and there's ways that you're still logged in to the platforms they're using. They become an admin, but you still hold all the control.
Okay.
You don't want to just give your Facebook login to a VA. And then like there's some danger there. But there's
Mhm.
other guardrails and safety measures that I can kind of walk you through in the rest of this call too,
Okay.
of ways to do it safely.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm kind of drifting into that topic, but is what comes to mind when I think of what you shouldn't
Okay.
delegate.
So we've kind of moved the small business owner from the thinking of I don't know, I need a VA, or maybe I need a VA,
Yeah.
or maybe they're at that point now where maybe I do need a VA. Maybe it's time to start that exploration part of
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing.
Yep.
Give us some ideas on what kinds of questions a business owner should ask when they're interviewing a potential VA.
Yeah, great, great question. So I would say when you first make contact, maybe somebody gives you a referral or you use an agency or whatever it is. First of all, the internet makes it real easy for us to kind of super sleuth, right? So
Mhm.
look at their stuff, look at their socials, look at their website. I would go with somebody that you feel aligned with personally, especially if your business is one that you're passionate about a certain area. Maybe it's health, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's teaching children, whatever it is. if you can find something that you're like, ooh, I feel like we have this in common. First of all, right off the bat, that's just going to help the working relationship. Okay. And they're
Mhm.
going to understand your business faster. Like it's just, it really gets you ahead. If you have that in common. So that's one thing I would just kind of look into them, just super sleuth around. Right. And then when you talk to them, I kind of hate to give away my secrets, but I'm going to. Like every element from the first touch of communication is the interview, meaning how fast do they get back to you? How well do they communicate on their email? Do they show up for your call on time? If they need to reschedule, are they respectful? Are they clear? I'm even looking at grammar, spelling.
Mhm.
If they're going to handle my email, I want to know how
Yeah.
are they speaking, right? How are they communicating? Then once you do talk to them, what I encourage my VAs to do is get the business owner talking. Okay. So don't be surprised, and you should be impressed if when you go to talk to them, instead of it actually shouldn't feel like an interview. Okay. This is not an employee. It,
Mhm.
generally speaking, I would really encourage you to hire them as a contractor. Now, maybe that's really tricky in California and you have to do employees. That's fine. Okay. Fully
Everything's
aware.
tricky in
Yep,
California.
yep, it is. Yep, it is. Okay, so do whatever you need to do. But I would treat it less like an interview and more like, is this the right person to contract? Okay. So if they say, tell me about your business, that's a good sign. Okay.
Mhm.
So you want to tell them about what you do, what you believe in, what you're trying to accomplish, your mission, all those things. And then where are you stuck? What
Okay.
do you need help with? Because if you just try to ask them questions, you may not even know what to ask. Instead, share with them your pain points. Share
Okay.
with them where you're getting stuck, what's not getting done,
Mhm.
or what you're doing that you'd like to pass off. Then see how they respond. Okay. Now, most VAs are very quick learners. So don't be turned off if they're like, I haven't heard of that platform or system that you use, but I'm
Mhm.
happy to take a look, because there is no way that every VA could learn every platform. There's
Yeah.
so many out there, right?
For sure.
And so that's also why I encourage you, like, to almost continue the interview when you first start to hire them. So start slow. Do not delegate everything. Start with one thing. Okay. So if you're vibing, you like each other, they're like, yep, absolutely, I can help you with that. I hear what you're saying. They kind of give you some solutions like, okay, yeah, you're frustrated with this. Here's what I can kind of see that we could do.
Okay.
Start small. So don't go, I need help with my newsletter and social media and my website. And like, hang on. Start
Mhm.
with one thing. And my best advice is start with one project, one
Okay.
very tangible project that has a beginning and an end. Say it
Okay.
could be as simple as, hey, I have all these Google Docs and I need them moved over into one and formatted and numbered, and so I can see it clearly. Could you do that? If they say yes, absolutely. Then you connect, you give permission to those Google Docs. So you're emailing that over, you're noticing how they communicate, how fast do they get back to you? Also, how many questions do they have for you?
Mm.
Okay. Now, I'm a big fan of the Colby score. It's a very helpful assessment that actually gives us a lot of information on who to hire and who to work with. Okay.
Okay.
On the Colby score, there are people that are very, very high on fact finding and
Mhm.
systems. And then there are people that are more kind of go with the flow, prefer to just kind of do it on a whim, figure it out as we go.
Mhm.
If your VA is vastly different from you, they're going to drive you nuts and you're going to drive them nuts. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why that one project is really helpful, because
Okay.
I've had VAs that ask me 1,000,001 questions. And at that point, I'm going, never mind, I'll do it myself. Right. This
Mhm.
is not worth the amount of back and forth that we are doing
Yeah.
right now. Right. So that's probably not the right VA for me. Versus the right fit is like, yep, Jen, I've got you. They start, they go, then they ask clarifying questions. All right,
Okay.
I'm working on this. Just wondering, do you want bullet points or would you rather have numbers and letters like an outline form? Great
Mhm.
question, right? And then
Mhm.
I give them the answer. Now, that's just me personally. Other business owners might be like, no, give me the 1,000,001 questions. I love it. I need it. That's how I'm wired. Okay, perfect, right? So if you
Yeah.
start with one project, it also is an easy way to get out of the thing if they're
There
not
you
the
go.
right VA for you, right? Because no one needs a long-term commitment with the wrong fit. So start slow. Then if you're like, okay, that worked, that's great. Then you go, can you do this? Now, can you do this? And you start loosening the reins little by little. And the more trust you have, the more you can delegate to them. Does that make sense?
It does. So maybe kind of wrapping this part up of where we're at on this
Yeah.
pathway here, and you've kind of alluded to it in a number of ways, but how do you determine the right level of experience
Right, right,
that you need this VA to be able to work effectively with you to
right.
meet your needs?
Yep. So in our program in the VA Academy, I have a match service. So business owners will come to me, they'll fill out a form, they'll say, this is the VA I want, here's what I'm looking for. Then I post it to my VAs and they raise their hand essentially saying, I have hours, I have time, I'm interested, and I help make that match. If you're
Okay.
doing it independently from that, I think again that it's that conversation asking them, have you ever done anything like this before? What other clients have you helped? What other platforms have you used? And asking them, like if you use Zoom and Google Docs and Slack, ask them, have you used those platforms before, right? Because while VAs can't learn all the platforms, there is, in my opinion, like a shared language for most business owners, right? And it's
Mhm.
different than corporate. So probably they're not using Teams, right?
Yeah.
They're probably using Slack, the things I just said, right?
Mhm.
Then from there, there's a million email platforms or CRMs or other things that we can use. But the language and the versatility has kind of become more centralized, I would say, that I've been following this since, 2008 is when I really started expanding my business.
Mhm.
It's like things used to be vastly different. Now I feel like you go into an email software, and you've done one, you probably can figure it out. And these VAs are very techy. They can probably figure it out, right?
Okay.
So just asking, what have you done in the past? Or asking them to look into, like, hey, I use MailChimp or I use, Infusionsoft or no, it's not
Mhm.
called that anymore. Keep, whatever, and seeing if there's anything comparable.
Okay.
If your business is pretty small and you don't have a huge operation, it's also okay to start with a VA who really doesn't have much experience. It's okay because
Mhm.
it's more, again, that communication or personality style, and they
Mhm.
can just learn with you as your business grows. So a VA can definitely grow as your VA should and can grow with you as your business grows.
Okay.
Okay. But I am a huge fan of personality styles. So
Mhm.
I would say, so in my match program, I like to take into account their Myers-Briggs.
Mhm.
Are they compatible? If you both know your Myers-Briggs, you can just easily Google,
Yeah.
does an ENFP and an INFJ work well together? Yes, they
Mhm.
do, right? But see, right? So Google that.
Yeah.
What are their Clifton strengths? You can
Mhm.
ask them that. All my VAs in my program take 3 tests: the Myers-Briggs, Clifton Strengths, and Colby, which I mentioned a second ago.
Mhm.
In Colby, you shouldn't be more than 4 numbers apart.
Okay.
So for anybody who knows Colby, that's a really good rule of thumb.
Okay.
Otherwise, again, you're going to drive each other crazy, and that's going to be a bad fit. Okay. If you don't know anything about Colby, you can also figure this out very quickly,
There you
from
go.
just trying a project or something. So it is sort of an experiment. All right. There's not a super clear path, but I would say, attempting to get it right based on personality and vibe, then starting with a project will give you a lot of information. Very quickly, you will know whether or not this is working, and then you can go from there.
Okay, so the small business owner has now gotten to that point where they're going, I found somebody I like. I'm going to do that one small project with
Yeah.
them. Now we're going to talk about how do you work successfully with
Mhm.
a VA and hopefully grow that relationship to make it even more efficient for you. So share with us what's the best way to onboard
Mhm.
and communicate with a VA, with
Yes.
your VA.
Yep, with your VA. So, starting small. So what I like to do, so do you use Slack at all, Rhonda?
I don't.
Okay. So I love Slack mostly because I do have a fairly bigger team of VAs and lots of people I'm
Mhm.
communicating with. If it's just you and the VA, it might be overkill. Okay. But the first thing I do is I get them on Slack. So that just starts with an invitation. They're added to my platform. So everything you should be doing with a VA should be you inviting them to join you. Again, a babysitter's coming to your house.
Right.
They're serving your snacks.
Right.
They're making your food. Okay. You don't want to be on their platform because then it's harder to disengage when you want to go your separate ways. Okay. So you want to own what you're using. So if you have Slack, onboarding them there. Um, then so establishing a method of communication. So maybe you don't use Slack, but you want to use Voxer or, which is a great tool. You can message, you can voice message, you can send, documents, photos, things like that. I really like Voxer as well. Um, Maybe it's email. That's fine too. Whatever you decide, right? Then I would say whatever project they're going to do for you. So if it's Google Drive, then their email address that you're going to share that to. The other thing they will have you do most likely is sign a contract. So that's going to come from them to agree, this is what we've agreed on, this is the project I'm doing, or this is the amount of hours per week or per month. So I really recommend you do get a VA on a retainer. That way they've blocked out time for you. Now you own that amount of time, again, whether it's per week or per month, and you're going to say, how do you know how much time? You're really going to have to ask them, and then they should be tracking their time so that
Okay.
there's transparency, so you know. And also, when you're not sure, I mean, nobody knows how long is this going to take, right? You
Right.
could think, oh, this is no big deal, it's going to be fast, and they're like, are you kidding me? That was a big deal. You weren't in the weeds, it took 4 hours. Or it could be opposite. You could say, oh, this is a huge laborious project, and they're going to go, done. It can
Yeah.
go either way, right? So
Okay.
we really don't know until we're tracking the hours. But when they have blocked off those hours, you know how much you're going to pay. So it's not the scary, their clock's just running and how much is
Hmm.
my bill going to be? That's scary. But
Yeah.
they know how much they're going to make. So it's very
Hmm.
win-win. You can always expand your hours from wherever you begin. So start with just 5 hours a week is what I'd recommend, right?
Okay.
And just start asking them, okay, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And see how many hours that is, right?
Yeah.
So they will set you up. They should invoice you. So you should ask them, okay, what's your preferred payment method?
Hmm.
Whether that's PayPal or going through QuickBooks
Hmm.
or Stripe or Venmo, anything is allowed, right? So you're going to want to set that up. And then if you're doing, say you have a Facebook group and you need help in there, you're going to add them to your group, and then you're going to
Hmm.
add them as an admin. If you
Okay.
have a page, same thing, you're going to add them as an admin. So there's some onboarding that you're going to need
Okay.
to do so that they can see your stuff. With
Okay.
online businesses, it's not like tangible, right? It's not like come into the salon and I'll show you around. You've got to get them into your world, and that's
Hmm.
usually with admin privileges. Now, what's also nice is when you set up a VA as an admin, you should and can be able to control what they see and what they can do. So you
Yeah.
do not need to give them full control of everything. So for instance, I use Kajabi. That
Hmm.
is where I have all my coaching courses and all my members' information. It's also what I use as an email platform and part of my website. But I can add VAs at different levels. So they're not
Okay.
seeing now all payment information should be encrypted. That should
Mhm.
never be visible. But they
Right.
can't even see how much people are paying me, right?
Okay.
Sometimes they can't see contact information. So they get to see what I allow them to see. So you
Okay.
want to be very wise with how much you're handing over from a security standpoint, right? But there is some onboarding that will need to happen, and expect the first week or two to be a little slower. So if you are a go-getter, if you're kind of impatient, you're going to need to know this is going to take some time. So kind of be patient, then it'll be up and rolling. So you're going to want to do regular, even Zoom meetings just to get on the same page, to share your brain. Zoom can give you a transcription of a summary of that meeting, which is super helpful.
Mhm.
It can be recorded so they
Yeah.
can watch it again if they need to. Loom.com is another great resource that, as they're asking you questions, you can respond using Loom, but that will create a library for them to go back to so you don't have to keep explaining it,
Okay.
or say this VA doesn't work out. Now you have a Loom library of little videos to show the next one.
There you go.
I also highly recommend you start a Google Doc with a operations manual. So if you don't already have everything documented, which you're totally normal if you don't, okay? But a VA can be part of this to help you because as you're teaching, this is what I do if, this is what I do when, if you ask them to document it, now they're building your operations manual, which you can show anybody else you hire. So that's a really good first step as well. Handling expectations, I would say, what hours are you available? How would you like me to communicate with you? It's not that you can't send them a message if they're not working. It's just being respectful of when are they going to respond, right?
Okay.
So what is their response time? I would say it should be within 24 hours, but everybody's a little different. It depends again what they're doing for you. If they're more specialized and they're more of a strategist, say it's more SEO or WordPress or Facebook ads, it might be a little bit longer turnaround time. And that's okay, but just know those expectations. Um, you can schedule messages to go out. Like I can schedule messages on Slack. So sometimes if I just don't want to admit that I'm working at 1 a.m, I'll schedule that message to go to my VA at 8 a.m. But it doesn't matter. They should turn off their notifications. They're not on call 24/7. If they are, you should be paying them a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But if they're just an hourly VA, then being really respectful of how they communicate and their hours is going to make the relationship a lot more successful.
So let's talk just real quickly about how does that small business owner handle any performance issues, or what if it turns out that it's not a good fit
Mhm.
after all?
Yeah. And
What
let me
kind of
ask,
goes into that? What's the best way to handle it?
yeah, let me ask you real quick. Would they be, if you hired a VA, would it be an employee?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Because you can only address performance issues if they're an employee. I just want to be clear. Okay. There's a
That's true.
very clear distinction between employee and contractor. Now, I know what you're saying. Okay. So I'm going to delve into that.
Mhm.
If they're not hitting the mark, right? They're not doing what you need them to do. First of all, I address it. I try not to, there's no reason to tiptoe around. I just saw a great, I don't know who wrote this, but they called it crushing eggshells. I think
Mhm.
I was looking at a job listing. Yeah. And it said, we have a company policy of crushing eggshells. I was like, I really love that. Like, don't walk on eggshells. Okay. Just be clear, be direct. You know what? Hey, thank you for formatting this Google Doc this way. It's just me, but I don't like it the way you did it. Can you please do it this way? So being very direct. And then you're going to notice how do they respond, right? Are
Yeah.
they open to that? Are they open to changing? Are they open to know they should be, right? They
Mhm.
should be willing to serve. So
Mhm.
direct heading, um, whatever, direct conversation.
Mhm.
And then if it continues, there's a quote by Maya Angelou that says, when people show you who they are, believe them. Okay. So I don't let it last long.
Yeah.
If it just is not working and I feel it, and whether that's again, personality, communication style, the way they're doing the job, I just am honest. I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like this is working out. Um, I think I'm gonna have to find somebody else. Now
Are
in
most
their,
VAs month to month?
yeah, it
Because you
should
mentioned
be.
them
It
about doing
should
a
be.
contract.
Yeah, I would really tell you not to sign a long-term contract with a VA. Now they may have some policy that's like, hey, you know, they may invoice you every 2 weeks and you want to be, respectful and finish out the 2 weeks,
Mhm.
pay them, and then say, hey, just so you know, moving forward, I think I'm going to go a different direction. And
Okay.
you're just done. And
Yeah,
then turn off all those admin permissions, right?
absolutely.
So you always want to have a plan for how do I disconnect,
Mhm.
right? So as you're thinking about how to onboard, it's really how do I offboard, right?
You go.
And when I owned my music school, we could disconnect somebody in about 2 minutes. It was very, very fast. And that was to protect my company.
Yeah.
Because if they were upset, and those were employees at the front desk, but if they were upset, they could do damage to my business, right?
Yeah.
So no need for that, right? And that's why I don't recommend like 2 weeks notice or blah, blah, blah. Nope. If it's a contractor, it's basically think about it like if you're hiring somebody to cut your grass,
Mhm.
right? if you weren't happy, you'd come out there and be like, hey, you missed the spot. Can you fix
Yeah.
it? Right? That's the first thing. And if they keep doing it, you'd say, I don't need your services anymore. Bye. Same with the VA. Okay.
Okay.
So you can just be done very, very quickly. But you do want to, unadmin them is what I like to say. So they don't have access to Facebook, your email, whatever anymore.
Okay, so let's say your business is at a place where you're thinking, maybe I need more than one VA.
Mhm.
And there could be, a couple of reasons. Maybe your business is growing,
Yeah.
good for that. Maybe the VA you have has limited skills and you need other skills brought in. Um, so obviously that is a good thing. Does it make sense to hire more than one VA? How do you share passwords with your
Yeah.
VA? How
Yeah.
do you trust your business with your
Right.
VA? And you talked about this a little bit ago about any tips on safety and
Mhm.
security. And I know
Yeah.
you've kind of bounced in and
Yep.
out on that, but
Yep.
maybe just kind of wrap it up with what are those things
Yes.
that it's important for us to know about the safety and security of
Yep.
our business?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's work backwards. So safety and security is just literally like document what they have access to, and you're adding them versus like they shouldn't have their own password.
Right.
Okay. It should be something that so I mentioned at the beginning, one great first step, which it's hard for some people to wrap their head around it. But if you say your email address is, Jen at Neverlone Coaching, right? I would once I trust them with a project, then I'm going to be like, here's the login. Don't change the password.
Mhm.
This is my inbox. This is my email. And they are in charge of that. And then you start a new email. But that what I just said is super important. You need to still have your password.
Mhm.
So even when I've given over my inbox, I still log in every once in a while to make
Mhm.
sure. Can I still see my emails and can I see what they're sending? Right. So you want to look at the sent box to make sure are they representing you well? And they're not going to email as you. They're
Right.
going to say who they are. I mean,
Okay.
I guess we could talk situationally, but we're
Yeah.
not trying to deceive anyone. We're
Right.
just trying to say, like my VA is Rachel, right? She's like,
Mhm.
hey, this is Rachel. I'm Jen's VA. I'll, pass this information on to you. It's like having a front desk receptionist, right?
Right.
Like any business you go to, usually there's a front desk person. That's what this person is. But you want to make sure that you still have their passwords. Sometimes you can use a program like LastPass, where you can very easily denote what they have access to,
Okay.
and you can turn that off very quickly.
Okay.
So safety and security is, visibility, making sure you know what they're doing. I prefer a weekly email as well. Please tell me every week what you did.
Okay.
So I like to see here's what came in. Maybe if there's sales, you put those on there. And then what they did, and then what we need to address. So if there's
Mhm.
any issues, it's all in one place. That way you always have a record. You
Yeah.
don't want to feel like you're paying their invoice going, I don't even know what they're doing. No,
Mhm.
no, 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 no. You should know exactly what they're doing, right? It
Yeah.
should be outcome based. You can't control when they work. You
Mhm.
can't even control how they work. A contractor has to use their own tools. They have their own computer. They have their own internet. You're not paying for those things. That's an
Right.
employee relationship, right?
Right.
Their own tools, and all you're doing is managing the outcome of their work. Okay. So are
Okay.
you happy with the end result? You're not going to go out to your grass guy and go, I know you're doing diagonal, but can you just do up and down? Like, no, you're not going to do that. They are the expert. Don't tell them how to trim the bush. Let them trim it, right?
Okay.
But if you're not happy with the outcome and you're telling the guy, like, hey, I'm not happy how my grass looks. Like, I think you're always cutting it the same way. And
Mhm.
shouldn't you vary it?
I think I've heard
You're,
that somewhere.
yeah, you can always go to them about the outcome, but you can't control their actual doing the
Right.
job. That's the difference between a contractor, right?
Very true in California.
Okay, yes, very true in California.
Very true in California.
And
Yes.
Minnesota follows California, so I'm very aware. Okay, and I've had tons
Oh
of
yeah.
clients in California, so that's why I was very specific and wanted to ask
Yeah.
you, because I know they're kind of trying to do away with contractors, really, is kind of the agenda, it seems like.
Yeah.
So, and I get it. I really do, because people have abused contract
Mhm.
status. But gosh, in these settings, like with a VA, you don't want an employee. Trust me. You want them to be a self-starter, reliant, and you want them to have other clients too. They should be able to diversify. Okay. So safety and security there. Let's see, what was the other question that we were talking about?
Sharing passwords and
Yep.
if you need to hire more than one,
In more
is it
than
ever
one.
good
Okay.
to have more than one?
So I think the majority of business owners, if you don't have a VA yet, starting with one is great. Okay. Because you're going to start to learn how to delegate, how to trust, how to inspect what you expect, all those things. It's new. All right. And that's quite the journey for a business owner for the first time. But when you want to consider hiring more than one is an admin VA who can be your sounding board, who can, help administrative tasks, help with emails, help with tasks, maybe, social media, maybe your members or your clients. That's a pretty like intimate in your business role. And I love that for your first one, but they're going to be a different personality possibly than a bookkeeper, right?
Right.
So when it's a totally different skill set, you're going to want to hire people based on their strengths. So a bookkeeper is a great next hire, or maybe even this one comes before the admin. It depends, right? Depends on the volume of your business and how much you're doing. If you're selling a ton of products and stuff, sometimes it's like bookkeeper comes first. It
Yeah.
just depends, right? And then I would say like an admin VA could maybe do a little bit of social media, but sometimes they're allergic to social media. They don't want to do it. They don't love it. So then I would hire a separate social media VA because it's really a different personality. They're probably not as detailed. They're a little bit more creative. Okay. For them to take what you're doing and really learn your voice and to come up with good content, they're going to be a different personality than the admin.
True.
So I
True.
would hire that as a separate skill set. Same thing if you have somebody managing your website on a monthly basis, they're updating plugins, they're making small changes. That's a totally different person who is probably like my husband and pretty nerdy and just behind their computer, and they're not as warm, and they're not going to brainstorm with you, right? They're just going to
Yeah.
handle, they're like a car mechanic, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a separate hire. I've had VAs who are very specific. I do have VAs who are very specific personality, who are really gregarious and outgoing and more extroverted. And they are present in my Facebook group to welcome new members, to encourage them, to cheer them on. Again, slightly different personality than a bookkeeper or an admin assistant. They're just bubbly and I love that. I love that energy. So in our VA Academy, there's many I mean, listen, I get the cream of the crop, right? They're my students, so I get to hire whoever I want. So I very carefully picked certain ones to represent me and my company well. So I would say very, very easily you could have 5 VAs easily. Not even that wouldn't even be shocking. I
Okay.
say when you get more into the 7 to 10 range, that's a lot to manage, right?
Yeah.
So even by the time you get to 5, my main VA who's been with me 10 years, she manages the other VAs. And I say manage very loosely, so nobody come at me, okay? There's not actually managing contractors, but she's the first line of communication. So they go to her first. Otherwise, I'd feel henpecked to death all day. Like,
True.
for the love of the Lord, don't ask me another question. Ask Rachel. She knows, right? So putting a barrier in between you is really helpful. So
Right.
maybe if you've hired these other VAs, they're going to your admin VA first with questions, okay? Instead of me managing all 5. That in sometimes in the world of online business is called an OBM, an online business manager, okay? I don't like that term a lot because the people who use it know it. The people who need it don't often know that term. All right.
Yeah.
So you don't
True.
want to go advertising yourself. I'm an OBM. Like no one will know what you mean. So let's stick to VA. Okay. But you may end up there in a role of OBM. So they're more of a manager for you. That's great. Beyond that, I would say once you've once you've duct taped together like 7 to 10 VAs, it's
Mhm.
time to restructure. You're
Yeah.
probably looking for a full-time person, right?
Right.
And then you can get into employees. And that's great. The more your business grows, absolutely hire employees, no
Yeah.
question, right? And I've done that for years. But it's knowing when is it a contractor situation and
Mhm.
when are you ready for that full-time salary? Because that's a different level,
That's
right?
a whole nother thing.
So yeah, it's a whole nother thing. We can talk about it. We don't need to today. I
Not
just think
today.
VAs are so accessible. It's such a great way with really a low cost. We're talking about $25 to $30 an hour to start. Okay. Can you do that? Can you do 5 hours a week at $25 an hour? Can you eke that out? Then your business will grow. It should, again, bring more business in, more money into your business. It shouldn't be a cost of goods. It should be an investment that then allows you to flourish and grow. There's no way I could have made my business to 7 figures without a VA. I mean, I don't even think you could get to 500,000. I mean, that'd be pretty incredible without a VA. Like, so if you're like, oh, I'm just small, I'm struggling to get going, well, the next move might be a VA. You never know how that could then get traction and help you systematize processes, document things, get more organized, because they probably know tools and resources that you don't. So they're going to be such an amazing help for you. Is it right for everyone? No, but definitely speak to a business coach. They can help you assess, right? But if you've kind of got that inkling, like, oh, I think it's time, I would say go for it. And if you're overdue, for the love, please get this going. Still start small, but it will be a game changer for you. It's happened for me. It's happened for so many of the clients. We have a directory that you can just go directly to see our VAs. And then you can request a match if you want that, and tell me what you need. And I can give you my best recommendations because I've trained them, I've vetted them, I've coached them. I would say any recommendation, personal recommendation for a VA is going to give you a lot of peace of mind, versus just Googling it. I would say ask your business friends. Does anybody have a VA they recommend? Does anybody know anybody who's a VA? Getting that personal recommendation is huge. We just take it to the next level with my match system because I know both sides. I know what the business owner needs. I know what the VAs can do, and you'll get my top 3 recommendations. I'm not in the middle. I don't take a percentage. I don't take a cut, nothing. It's just something I offer. So that's a good way to get started as well. But there's lots of agencies, lots of options out there, of course.
So let me back up just real quick here to a question. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's kind of bring some focus to it because I'm sure anybody that's hung out with us so far on this call today is going, yeah, but
Yeah,
how much is it going to cost to
right.
hire a VA?
Yep.
What can we expect to pay? What is
Yeah.
normal if
Yeah.
normal is a thing?
Right.
So maybe you can kind of touch on that.
Yep.
Because maybe that's kind of dispelling some of the myth that's out there.
Exactly. I would say loose numbers. If you can do 5 hours a week, which is 20 hours a month, let's say hypothetically they charge $25 an hour. We're looking at 500 a month.
Okay.
Can you afford 500 a month? Now, some business owners are going to say, no, I can't. Okay, then let's turn it around. How can you afford $500 a month? Okay, because that then puts our brain into a place of searching for answers versus just shutting it down. Nope, I can't. Hang on. How can you? So that might mean, well, if you're a coach, if I got one more client, oh, I'd be able to afford that. Or, I'm using all these other platforms. Maybe I don't need all of them. Maybe I get rid of some of them. Maybe you've been struggling with Keep, KEAP, right? That's a struggle for a lot of people. And you're like, I've invested so much time into this. I'm going to make it work. Maybe it's time to see the writing on the wall. It's driving you nuts. Fun fact, they were Infusionsoft. People called them Confusionsoft. And I'm convinced that's why they changed their name because it is a really rigorous program, right? Same with Kajabi. It's awesome, but it can really like pull you down. Well, maybe you need to stop a subscription to hire a VA instead. And maybe they can tell you, hey, we can do all this for free using MailerLite, for example, is free. MailChimp, yep, I used to recommend them. They kept raising their prices, raising their prices. Okay, get rid of that, right? Like, where can we consolidate some of your expenses so that you can hire a VA who is going to help you scale and grow your business, truly?
Okay.
Of course, you're still at the drive, don't expect they're not physically going to grow it. You're still the driver of your business. But by delegating or getting ideas or systems, it will allow your growth, I think, to skyrocket. So yeah, looking at 500 a month, of course, there's going to be other VAs. Maybe their minimum is 1,000 a month. I don't know. It just depends. If the more specialized Facebook ads specialist, it could be easily $2,000 a month.
Easily,
Right.
yeah.
SEO can be anywhere from $1,000 a month to $3,000 to $4,000 a month. But that will directly get you more business, right? Because if people can't find you by Googling you, you pour that money into SEO or Google Ads, well, now you're going to recoup those costs. So it's really more of a know your numbers type thing, right? Which again, as coaches, we help our clients do, right?
Mhm.
Like what's working, what's not, what do we need to shave off? Because sometimes as a business owner, when we're getting started talking about we're wearing all the hats, we're also throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? Let's just see what sticks, right? So you might be figuratively making a mess, trying to figure out what sells. That's great. That's fine. I've done that. But is it time to shut down some of the things you're doing to now go in deep with the thing that's working, right? If you can do that, then onboarding a VA will really skyrocket that focus, right? So I would just really look at your finances, see what you can do or what needs to happen to make it happen. So back to this plumber guy I was talking about. When we first talked, he's like, Jen, I can't afford it, but give me a year. I'll be back. So that was his goal. So for 1 year, he did everything he could to get his business rolling. Then he calls us back. Okay, I'm ready for SEO. I'm ready for Google Ads, and I'm ready for that VA.
There you go.
Right. So maybe just making that a goal of yours. Um, because maybe you're still doing, grassroots marketing, right? You're out there, you're networking, you can't afford to pay for marketing. Okay, keep doing that. Get some more clients, then reinvest into your business by using a VA. That's really the next strategic. I don't know. I'm listening to myself going, Jen, this is what you believe, right? And yeah, after coaching hundreds of business owners, like of course there can be exceptions, but I just really believe that a VA is the first step. It's really like duplicating yourself. So asking like how can you multiply yourself because you can only do so much. And if you want to stay small and just do it yourself, first of all, you probably didn't make it to the end of this call. But if you do, that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to scale and grow, the VA is going to be the first hire that really helps you get there.
So I want to wrap this up. We have had a great time today. We have talked about so many different things and hopefully with some kind of logic and order to all of it. I was trying to lead everyone down the pathway here of
Yeah.
starting and ending. So if somebody is interested in looking into your VA program, maybe they want to become a VA
Mhm.
or maybe they need a VA and they want to look at your directory. Uh, Share how they get a hold of the VA Academy
Yep.
and see where it goes from there.
Absolutely. So the easiest way is just to go to jenhickle.com, JenHickle.com. On there, it's going to walk you through more information about the VA Academy. You can take a quiz to see if you're wired to be a VA. Side note, sometimes you're a business owner and you actually discover that you love all the businessy stuff. Okay. And maybe your business that you are trying to sell isn't working, but you decide, oh my goodness, I'm going to take all this stuff I've learned and help a business owner. So sometimes that happens, right? So if you're, interested in becoming a VA and doing more of that admin or marketing stuff, you can look into that. And then if you go down to the bottom, it'll say hire a VA and view the VA directory. So
Okay.
you can easily go there. You can peruse our directory. You can see what skills they offer. You can sort it by platforms you may use. So if you're looking for somebody who has experience in a certain, WordPress, Elementor, Kajabi, whatever it is, you can sort by
Okay.
that or even region if you want somebody in your time zone or close to your time zone. There is an advantage to maybe even spreading out the time zone. Okay. So I don't mind having VAs in different time zones because they either might be up before me or working later than me. That's
Mhm.
an advantage, right? So
Okay.
if you're in Central, having somebody in Pacific might be good. I'm off with my family. They're still answering my emails. It just depends, right? So you can do that. But if you're overwhelmed by all the choices, just click on hire a VA, request a match. Totally
Okay.
free. You just fill out the form and then I'll give you my best recommendations. So that's an
That sounds
easy
great.
way to start. I try to make it as pain-free as possible. you just give me the information of what you're looking for and I can guide you in that. So yeah, that's the best way to reach
Perfect. We can't ask for it to be any more simple than that.
me.
I want to thank you, Jen, for taking the time to be with
Yeah.
me today to share your expertise and really to kind of demystify some of the things that we may have known or thought we had known about a VA and how effective they could be, what to look for. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
You're
And I
so
want to
welcome.
thank those of you that stayed with us all the way to the end. I hope you found a lot of value in what you heard today. And if you've got more questions, you can reach out to me. But reach out to Jen if you're looking into the whole VA thing. She's made it super easy for you. Thank you again for joining us today, and I will see you the next time. Have a great day.